Well, somebody told us that it's your birthday today.
It is.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, wow.
Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much.
Wait.
That's so kind. Thank you so much.
so
Wow, that's so kind. Wow, thank you so much. That is so kind. That's warmed my heart. That's so kind.
Well,
Thank
we're
you.
honoured to have you, and your manager did let us know that it was going to be your birthday
he?
today.
Okay.
So you have him to thank
Okay,
for the Colin the
I
Caterpillar
will.
cake.
That's insane.
But yeah, like, thank you so much for coming in today, especially as it's your birthday. For our listeners who may or may not know who you are, tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, so I'm Michael. I'm a musician. I'm 21 today. And I guess, like you said, I started growing my audience on TikTok during lockdown. But I've been doing music since I was like 14, gigging and writing. I've been singing since I was like 7 years old in the nativity playing school. So yeah, that's me. Like, yeah, I'm just a musician.
So, like, tell us a little bit more how that started and how you ended up being where you are today, because you're gigging all over the country now.
Mm-hmm.
You got hundreds of thousands of people following you on TikTok. Like, that didn't just happen overnight. Like, what's been your story?
So if we want, it depends how far back we want to go, but I started like writing my own songs when I was 14. Like, I knew from about 7 or something that I wanted to do music, but then like was in choirs and stuff, and then like really enjoyed them, then started to enjoy them a bit less when they started like singing Benjamin Britten, and I just thought, I don't want to sing songs about cornfields anymore, they don't mean anything to me. And then I started writing when I was 14, and doing like open mics in the city, and that was really cool, and like got me a lot of experience and stuff like that. And I thought I'd keep going with that, but then obviously the pandemic came. So when I was 16, I'd started producing my own songs, and I think I was 18 in the pandemic, and I started posting on TikTok just as a joke at first. Like, I downloaded the app to promote my music, then like posted some like weird like comedy videos of me like trying to be funny, and then they started doing like a bit well, and I was like, oh, that's cool, like maybe I should keep doing that. So then and as my audience started to grow, I thought, right, now's my opportunity to show people my music. That was in 2020, 2021, and then started to grow an audience, and then it kind of just has blossomed from there, I guess. I went to uni, but then signed a deal, and I'm able to do music full time, which is really cool. But yeah, that's kind of it so far. Did some shows and stuff, and yeah.
It's
As
a pretty
brief
amazing
overview.
story. Brief
Thank
overview,
you.
but an amazing story.
It is indeed. I mean, you're a local lad. You're from the city of Liverpool, and you mentioned that you did some open mic in the city.
Yeah.
What was that like, doing that in your own city?
I mean, the open mics anywhere, I think are just like really, it's a mixed bag, right?
Yeah.
So you can get like some really good people, and then some like really not bad, but just very interesting. So like I really enjoyed, I remember going out, like my mum would like drive me, and they'd some be in like Chester, or a lot would be in like in the city, and as like a 14, 15-year-old, to be able to go out like twice a week, like on a Monday, Wednesday or Saturday or wherever, and just like go to a pub and listen to all these different influences. I feel like that had a bigger impact on me than I probably gave credit to at the time. And also just being able to play live and get that regular experience, that meant a lot, which you kind of didn't have with the pandemic. And I did think that was the way it's going to go. You just keep gigging and getting bigger. But then with TikTok and everything, the way that people break has changed. I mean, there's definitely people who still do that, but it's like a mixture of both now, I guess.
Yeah, I was literally going to say, it sounds like TikTok has been massively influential in terms of you reaching your audience. You've gone from open mic to reaching millions and millions of people, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's crazy, right? When you see the number on the screen and it's like 100,000 or whatever, like it doesn't really register how many people that actually is and the impact that has sometimes. So it is cool, but yeah, it's a big jump from open mics and stuff, but not not knocking open mics. I think they're brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, that's
everyone should do them and pay their dues. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's led to you now having a full-time music career, which is absolutely amazing. But it didn't quite start like that, did it?
No.
Or what was it? Always the plan to go into music full-time?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So that's the thing that sometimes gets like misconstrued, I guess, is that I started music because of TikTok, which I started TikTok because of music. Do you know what I mean? I downloaded it to promote my music, but then it just turned out that it was the comedy stuff that kind of resonated with people first. And I still think there's probably a lot of people who know me just for my comedy, which is like fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. So I can't knock it because it's a useful thing anyway. It was definitely music first, I think.
Yeah. But what I really meant was kind of, did you expect to go into a full-time music career so soon? Because you mentioned there you went to uni for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And things kind of took off in the pandemic. And I know for me as well, I did try to do my master's in the pandemic, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I mean, losing that kind of face-to-face interaction, not being able to go to your lectures in person when you obviously wanted to. Yeah.
You were studying music as well, weren't you?
I was.
So how do you study music on Zoom?
It was tough. It was tough. That was one
imagine.
of the reasons why it was kind of easier decision for me to drop out, because I thought like I'm in a uni room. I'm not getting out that much to see other musicians, which is a big part of it, collaborating. And there's a lot of stuff just going on my phone. So it's like, I don't want to get in any more debt really and stick around. And I remember saying to my grandma before I joined uni that I didn't really want to still be there after first year. So I guess like for me, and this isn't the case for everyone, because my sister's there now doing medicine, so she'll be there for, like 6 years or something. But it's like horses for courses, right? I remember it was just buying me time, I guess, and the facilities too. Like there are great facilities that you can get access to that you can't otherwise. But I don't know, I feel like there's so much power in social media now, and it is volatile but like there's a lot of power in your hands as an artist with that.
Definitely. I think one of my favourite things about you is that you don't take life too seriously. Have you always been that way? I
always like tried to like be funny, I guess. Yeah, I remember in school, like I'd always like, to the point where it's just annoying and it's just like, shut up, Michael, just like sit down for Christ's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like in primary school, I always used to get sent out, and then in secondary school, I'd get sent out as well. But it wasn't ever like just being like naughty and annoying for the sake of it. It was like, I just wanted to make people laugh, I guess. And yeah, so that's always been there, I guess. And
it's obviously a massive part of who you are, and it's like, in all of your TikTok content as well. Like, did it come naturally then to, because I feel like it's kind of, you give me Lewis Capaldi vibes in that, you're insanely talented, but you've got this kind of other personality. Just people just love, do you know what I mean? Like,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It really does give me that kind of vibes. Don't know about you.
No, I think that's great. I think that's great. I mean, I love it when you get a sense of the person behind the musician. I think that's so important. And I think that makes the music that they make so much more relatable.
Yes.
Or, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I think it's really important. I think that's what social media is really good at, because you can like reveal more of yourself. And there's also negatives to that, right? Because where's the line between privacy and where does the internet end and where do I begin? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's one thing of it. But generally speaking, if you're looking at the positives, like when I just did a tour, and it's kind of like, I feel like people already kind of feel like they know me, like when I come up to meet them afterwards, because like I've posted so many videos of me just talking to myself online. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of breaks a barrier down that wouldn't be able to be done otherwise. But I think Lewis Capaldi's brilliant. I really like Lewis. He's amazing.
Potential future collaboration.
Oh, I would love that.
That would be so good.
I would die for that. That would be so cool.
But yeah, that's really amazing. And in terms of like your experiences, I mean, you've got this amazing talent of being able to songwrite, which I think is absolutely amazing. And that means you've drawn a lot of your own experiences and put that into your music. I wanted to ask you, like, what's the music making, songwriting process actually like?
It varies, right? So I guess like when I started writing, I was just writing in my bedroom on an acoustic guitar. And the first song I ever wrote was about the Hillsborough disaster. Because I remember that my mum and dad drove me and my sisters to the mural outside the ground. because my grandma knew some people who were affected by it. So we went and like we looked at that, and my mum was like, you should write something about that. Like it's a very moving thing. So in that sense, that stuff is easy to write about, the stuff that moves you the most. That's when the songs come easier. So that was the first song that I remember being like, okay, this is good. And I played it to my mum and my sisters. And like I do with all my music now, they're the first people to hear it.
They vet it.
Yeah, exactly. And she was like, oh, this is actually good. So then we, like, it's the same really back then. Like I remember filming it and put it on Facebook and seeing what people thought. But that was the first thing I wrote about. So back then it was very insular process until I started like producing. When I was 16, I got a laptop, and it wasn't just me and my guitar anymore. It was like synthesizers that I could get. And I was like, because I didn't really like playing the guitar, like I wasn't a massive fan of it. So when I found out that I could press a key and then click quantize, and then it all went into like a perfect line, I was like, this is so much easier. I'm so lazy, I'm not gonna bother actually trying to have any skill on an instrument anymore. So for a couple of years I went through that and just did loads of producing. And then out of the pandemic, I started going to London and like doing writing sessions and writing with other people, and that at first is a really weird experience, especially when you've been so protective over your own art for so long, to kind of give that up a little bit. Not give it up, but learn how to work with other people, because it's so personal, and all of my music is so personal. I think that's what I like about it. If there's a song that I've made that I think somebody else could sing, I'm not really bothered by it. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's really good. But unless like the melodies are really catchy. But for me, it's like a big thing is the lyrics and making that like really interesting and honest. But it's hard because you sometimes feel like you're mining yourself, like for like honesty and like so. And then it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to waffle on for too long. But like sometimes you can. There's a song I put out which is like quite deep called Bleak, about like suicidal thoughts. And then it's like, it's done, like it's reacted quite well. And then, but it's like, how do you reconcile that? Because I was at like a very low point when I wrote that. I don't want to go back there to create more art. Do you know what I mean? So it's just about managing that and always finding new ways of creating. But yeah.
Do you feel the pressure then as an artist? Because I think even like Lewis Capaldi has had that pressure when you have a big hit or something that does do really well, but the process that you've been through has been particularly hard to write it. Does it then have an impact on the future things you write? Because you're like, I want it to be as successful. Do I have to go back to those situations to be able to write something good? Like, is that process more difficult now or easier?
I think you can second guess yourself. Like, I haven't had anywhere near the success of Lewis Capaldi or anything. But I know that, like, I've listened to some of his interviews and because all of his songs are really heartbreak, right? And living in that thing just to create more art is a weird thing. But yeah, do I feel the pressure to do that? Sometimes, like, there are times when I've kind of really pushed myself to feel like quite extreme emotions so I can put it into a song. It's like, do it. Do you know the phrase, like, do it for the plot? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like doing that and like pushing yourself to like weird extremes and then just going, oh, it's theatre. Do you know what I mean? And kind of detaching yourself. And to an extent, that's admirable. But then it's like, well, when you become like a burden on like the people around you and your family and your friends because you're so hell-bent on creating like the most honest piece of art, it's like, you got to draw the line somewhere. Yeah. But I don't have the answers. Like, I'm still battling with that all the time because I listen to my songs and I'm like, listen back to them. It's like, well, that one's really good. But yeah, I don't want to be in the place that I was then. But you just adapt, I guess. Yeah. And it's up to you to just find new angles on stuff. And yeah.
Hi everyone, Gaby and Felix here.
We hope you're enjoying today's episode of the Talk Twenties podcast.
This is the part where we talk to you about our headline sponsor, Zopa Bank, one of the UK's leading digital banks.
Zopa are all about fair, simple and easy financial products that actually work for you. It's all online and in their free-to-use app.
Head to your usual app store and search Zopa, that's ZOPA. Get yourself the Zopa app. I think one of the things that our listeners will find really, really interesting is kind of how you kind of took your career into your own hands. Because you said you kind of imagined when you were younger that you just gig and then do bigger gigs and do bigger gigs and eventually end up where you'd want to be. But with TikTok, you kind of have brought about a career that you probably weren't expecting first, but it's definitely all down to like you and you putting yourself out there, and you kind of feel like you've created this career. Has that been accidental? And is there any tips you could provide to anyone else who's maybe thinking, I know what I want so bad, but how do I even go about it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing, especially like it's the same with anything, right? You just have to put yourself out there and do a lot and hope something like comes off. But with TikTok, it's such a strange thing because the actual action of posting a video is minimal. You're pressing buttons, and like I was doing it from my couch in lockdown. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't even get up off the couch to do this, and it would like reach more people than I've ever even met. Do you know what I mean? So that's really weird. But like in terms of building a career off it, for me, the music is my main thing, but TikTok has helped with that. And TikTok's been brilliant, and the people at TikTok are really good about like looking after their creators and stuff. But I think for me, having the music and that's what I want to do, right? I feel like I might have lost my way if it was all social media based, because you kind of live and die by your last video, and you live and die by how much the algorithm pushes you and stuff like that. So that can be quite damaging on your like self-worth. I definitely struggle with that at a point, because it's like a video that I think is really funny won't do as well as a video that I don't think is that funny, but is maybe more relatable to people. And then it's like, well, do I just do ones that I think are going to be more relatable, but I don't enjoy doing them as much? Just so it keeps reaching.
Do you feel like you feel like you're playing a game then? Like with platforms?
But it's the same with music, right? There are songs that you put out that don't get streamed as much as songs that you put out and you're not kind of as invested in, but it'd be because they're catchier, or do you know what I mean? But whereas that other song that you love and is so deep and so meaningful, it's too slow, or do you know what I mean? So it's that dilemma is true in any art form. Sorry, I think I've gone off track. It's the day nurse that I'm on.
You're a bit of a cold.
No, not at all, man. Like you might see yourself as waffling, but it's so interesting for us to hear the process and what goes into putting out this amazing content. I mean, what you just said there is like a bit of a trade-off, and I think that's why they call it a hit song, because it might be hit or miss, right?
Yeah.
And then even linking back to social media, you know, you've used it to great effects, but you made a great point earlier about social media is powerful, but it's also volatile as well. Yeah. It just depends how you use that as a tool. For someone who has big dreams right now, how would you advise them leveraging their social media to build on those dreams?
I think consistency is key, whether you're doing music or I know a lot of comedians and actors, actresses who kind of use it to benefit them. And I think like consistency is I post or try to post every day. I remember in lockdown, I was posting 3 videos a day, which like I couldn't do now. Like that makes me sweat, the thought of that. But like, yeah, just incrementally building. And like you said, it's like you can have one that just flies, and then all of a sudden you've got like, you're absolutely leaping in followers. And then for like 3 months, you won't have anything like that. So it's just like the numbers are great, but the numbers are their own thing, and don't get too invested in them. And I think that's what I've learned the hard way, especially like with music as well. Like it's like posting like a video, like I get so in my head, like if I post a music TikTok and it doesn't do that well, like you can get so consumed by it, but then it's like, well, it might not have been your fault. Do you know what I mean? Obviously analyze your content and see what's working and what isn't, but it isn't always to say that just because that song didn't do well on TikTok doesn't mean that it won't perform well elsewhere. And like going on tour and like selling out the shows was such a big thing for me, because you actually get to see the real life people, and that's when it actually hits home. Because otherwise, I'm just on a train, in a studio, in a hotel room, on a train, in a studio. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the only interaction that I really have is like via a screen.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. Yeah, you lose perspective. Whereas I think a lot of it is about keeping your head screwed on and just like, just believing in yourself and your art, because the feedback is so instant now.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have had that years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like everyone wants everything right now, because you can see the views count, you can see the engagement. But if you believe in something, whether it is, comedian or any type of art, don't, be too disheartened by like one number, I guess.
Yeah.
There's definitely like a pressure. Well, I'm seeing it from like artists and stuff like that, where they're talking more and more about the kind of, they have to have a profile on TikTok, or that's one of the only ways to kind of reach new people. Like, what's your view on that as like an up and coming artist? Like, do you feel like TikTok is like one of the biggest reasons that you are where you are, or?
Definitely. I mean, I'd be lying if I said no.
Yeah.
I think you still have to have good music though, right? Because you can, like, you see a lot of influencers who do just start doing music because they've got millions of followers, and it's like, your music isn't that good. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's not, that sounds harsh, but do you know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
Yeah,
so I think good art will always shine through. But for me, if I sat here and said, oh yeah, TikTok's done nothing, it's done
and
a
our record
lot.
companies actively like pushing you to do it.
Hugely. I mean, every record label wants their artists on TikTok,
Yeah.
whether they're in my position, quite, fairly new and not huge, to like someone like Lewis or whatever, and he's great at it, right? But and he'll be a dream for his record label because he just does it so well. Whereas there are artists who are, as big as him, they'll still be getting told to do TikTok by record labels. It is such a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Like, I can't understate that. Like, I've seen people's careers just fly off of it. There's some really, and it's like, it's not a bad thing. I think that it's a dirty word in some regards, and some people in the industry, I think, do like frown upon it because it's not what they know. Do you know what I mean? And they're from a different era maybe, and they like look down upon it. But I think, A, there's a skill to creating the content, and like B, like I said, a good song is a good song. But I like my song Bleak, I think it's a good song, and I was pushing it for a couple months on TikTok. It wasn't really moving, and then I just changed the style of content I was making, and like added a POV on it, and then it did like hundreds of thousands of views. So it's like the song hasn't changed, but the way I've been marketing it has changed.
Yeah.
And it is a great song.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's great that you have that ability to, something's not working, you're able to change it. I was just thinking then when you said, some of the record labels are pushing more artists to use TikTok actively. I'm just wondering, how do you then maintain your authenticity and it's still Michael's TikTok, not Michael who's signed by
Yeah,
TikTok,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
I've been very protective over my socials. I feel like there've been times when I've been like, not in a malicious way, but people have said to me, like, work with these social people or this company and they'll help you, do your Instagram or do your... I've never let anyone on my TikTok. I'm the only person who has logins to my TikTok because it's fundamental to me. Do you know what I mean? But like, other people have like... And every time I pushed away from it and I think that... Because it's not... Do you know what I mean? I think for other people it might work if you're huge already and you just need to maintain posting. Anyone can do that, right? But for me, it's like my bread and butter. Do you know what I mean? It's how I've kind of got to where I am. So to hand that over is ludicrous.
Yeah. I can tell it means so much to you because that's how you maintain connection with your fans, right?
It's very important. Like, I'm always like checking through my DMs every day. Even if I don't reply, I'll try and read them all. And yeah, I mean, my screen time is embarrassingly high. I think like when I was like 14, I was so anti like anything, like any social media, or I didn't even have like a iPhone, and I kept my BlackBerry for longer than all my friends did. And it was nice. And I always think, Was I at my happiest then? But then I thought, you're also 14, so nothing's happening in your life. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you're happier when you're 14. So it's weird, like, knowing now that, like, social media's played such a big part in my life, but it plays such a big part in anyone's life, right?
So true.
I think a lot of our listeners, and me included, and probably you too, can talk about the screen time. Like, it's definitely normal for, like, us, like, people in their 20s to and younger to have so much of our life online.
Yeah.
You talk about it a little bit through your music as well, but, like, and you mentioned it briefly on the podcast already, but, like, how do you think social media is, like, having an impact on, like, this us as a generation?
I don't know. This is a huge thing. How long is it? How long are the episodes?
Yeah,
we could be here for, like, 3 hours.
We're about to dive deep into the black hole.
I mean, I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought, like, TikTok is wild because everyone across the whole country and even in America can have the same in-joke. Do you know what I mean? So it can be like, whereas when I was like 12, 13, 14, there were memes. Like, memes were kind of big.
Yeah.
But really, you were in your own cosm of the earth, and you knew, I mean, YouTube was a thing. So it's not like I was born in the, like, you know, I was like in my like 14 when it was like 1960, and I was like, oh, it's better back then, like doffing my top hat to everyone. No, it was like, even then, the growth of social media between then and now is stark. Like, the worst thing is comparing yourself to other people and just having too much content to consume. And I'm guilty of it so much, just scrolling through, and your mind isn't built to consume all of that and to skip from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. It's not what us as, like, animals are programmed to do. So it is absolutely frazzling people's brains, mine included. And that's why I try not to let it use me and use it instead. But it's hard because you get stuck on the doom scroll, right? And, like, if I'm just, like, in a hotel room late at night, I'm just going to go through it. Or, like, this is how sad it is. Like, I get proud of myself if I'm watching YouTube and the video's like 12 minutes and I'm not just scrolling on TikTok. It's like, you're still watching, like, a FIFA YouTuber. Like, do you know what I mean? You're not doing, like, commendable work for the earth. But it's just, like, as long as you're not rattling through content, I think, that's one thing. It connects everyone. Which is good and bad. Like I said, with, like, the inside jokes and stuff, you don't, like, everyone kind of has shared personalities now. Like, my sister is 16. I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. But, like, she quotes, like, TikTok all the time.
Yeah.
And in some ways it's really funny and good. But it's like, when I was younger, it wasn't that as much. You kind of came up with your own things. But that's the same as what is happening now. But it's just, you can come up with your own thing and it goes further. And then everybody else just latches on. I don't know. It's
That's
really
an interesting
interesting.
thing. I hadn't thought about that, actually. And, like, obviously that everyone is kind of not, like, are we all morphing into one another? Like, all because we're just getting all fed the same content. I guess TikTok feeds different people different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, that's an interesting thought, actually, that obviously people don't just have their own jokes anymore. They're, like, things that they've seen online that they then send to their mate or whatever.
I think in many ways it's also, like, bridging an age gap as well. I feel like in previous years it's very clear who's younger and who's older. Now, like, we're all kind of consuming
it's like who's
the
on
same,
TikTok and who's not.
Yeah, because you said your sister's 16 and she quotes all the TikToks. Like, my girlfriend's 24 and she quotes a lot of the TikToks. And when I don't get it sometimes, she's like, the girlies get it. Do you know what I'm saying? I know straight away it's a TikTok thing. Yeah. So yeah, in that way, in many ways, it does kind of help us, like, bridge the age gap and, like you said, connects more of a shared joke kind of thing.
Exactly. I saw a TikTok that said, like, the app, it was somebody, like, talking about TikTok on a TikTok, and they were saying, like, the app, like, pushes you into different avenues. I don't know if this is true. This is, like, conspiracy theory or whatever. But, like, so you'll be, like, pushed into, like, alt girl or, like, e-boy. Do you know what I mean? And you'll get fed that content, and then you start to, like, that alters do you know what I mean? Just, like, listening to a certain artist can alter the way that you view yourself or whatever. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, that's.
But like I do feel like that. Like I wake up some days and just like, what personality am I going to have today? And I that depends on like what music I listen to. Like we said before, like I've been listening to Meeks recently, and I feel like I could go and like kick someone's head in or something. Then obviously I couldn't because I'm like the scrawniest person ever. But like, do you know what I mean? That how that can change. But if I start listening to Phoebe Bridgers, I'll just want to curl up into a ball and cry. So I think what I'm trying to say is like the media that we consume has such a big impact, or it does on me anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you make a great point. I wanted to bring up earlier on about kind of lyrics and I can't even say the lyricism.
Yeah, lyricism. Yeah.
Lyricism. Thank you. Because like music on its own is actually a beautiful thing. Like I really got into lo-fi hip hop.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's heard of Lo-Fi Girl on YouTube. That literally got me through my degree. But I took that time out to like stop listening to music that has a lot of lyrics in.
Yeah.
And I just was able to just enjoy beats and sounds.
Yes.
So when you now after that then, when I now started to listen to music again, I found that it was so much more important to me to what type of music I was listening to, because I did feel like it was affecting my mind, my mental state and how I perceive myself and what I want to put out.
Yeah.
So for you then, with what music you put out, what kind of connection do you want to make with your fans? What do you want them to feel when they listen to Michael?
I think it varies song from song, but the EP that I've just put out called Socializing, that is a lot about like mental health, I guess, and like just being stuck in your own head. It's like the oldest song on there I wrote when I was 16, and the newest one, Bleak, was only like 8 months ago. So like but the thread running through it all is I guess like mental health. It's like anxiety, obviously, suicidal thoughts. I don't know why I smirked when I said that. I feel like it's still hard to talk about, right? That's why I put it in a song. God, I sound like so much fun, don't I? Anxiety, suicidal thoughts. But yeah, so I guess in that project, that was what I wanted to get across, like a diary entry. Yeah. And I guess you can never, I try not to like hope for or tell anyone how to listen to my music, do you know what I mean? And let them do it themselves. But in an ideal world, I'd like them to like really just sit down, listen to it all and get into that headspace. And if they have those struggles as well, I guess you're not alone and stuff like that, which was really cool on tour to see people sing the songs back and actually see how much it meant to people. That is like what I do it all for. Do you know what I mean? Like writing and performing the 2 times.
I think your songs are moving, but I think they're also catchy as well. Like I think it's not like, oh, I need to sit down in a dark room and cry. Cry. They're not that. It's not that kind of music. It's like it's still uplifting in some kind of way. Like, and I think that's how you write as a whole. It's so well done. Like the lyrics obviously clear me so much, but and you feel heard when you're listening to something like that. But then also it's something I would listen to often. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and when I'm in a good mood, whatever mood I'm in, like, so I really enjoy it.
I appreciate that.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, like, music has a ability to take you to another place.
Yes.
And if you can go to a place where you really relate, it's actually amazing.
That's the best.
Right now I'm picturing like when you got your headphones and you just feel like you're floating or something.
Yeah. It's
so
insane.
Amazing.
It's insane, isn't it? I absolutely love it. I do think, it's so cool, and having all different types of music at your fingertips now is so amazing. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
We love talking on the podcast about like your 20s in general, but you've only had 1 year's experience as of today, 365 days of being in your 20s.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you though, like, and this can be from like growing up at any point, like, have you ever had any situations or adulting disasters, we like to call them, big failures, big moments where you've gone, I absolutely cannot believe I did that. That's so embarrassing, that you can maybe share with our listeners?
He's nodding already.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for sure. What are we talking, like embarrassing or like absolute just breakdown? Like,
tell us everything. Like, I want to know them all at this point.
Yeah, man.
I feel like, okay, I don't want to. So there was one time, like, for me, music is like 70% and 90% of who I am.
Yeah.
So I'm so attached to it. So if it doesn't do what I want it to do, or I feel like it's not being listened to by as many people as I would like, it hurts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every little thing hurts so much because it's my passion and it's what I live for. And I've had a lot of times where that hurts and like I've just been like sobbing in the car or sobbing in a hotel room and just thinking like, oh, this is so hard. But in the grand scheme, it's not really that important because there are people doing medicine and whatever. So it's like, do you know what I mean? Like you've got to
You're
like,
still helping people with
you've
your
got to
music,
have like
though.
perspective on it.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying, yeah.
But yeah, so there've been times where I've just like absolutely broke down. But like there was one time actually that it was really embarrassing. I went to Germany this year. It was only like 7 months ago, maybe. I went to Germany for this music thing. And I flew over and the flight over there was fine. Stayed for however many days, like a week. And it was really cool, great experience. But I was ready to come home at the end of it. And then it's the first time I'd ever flown on my own. So I feel like a lot of my adulting disasters have to do with like travel and public transport. Because getting the train up and down to London, you realise, especially after sitting in your room for 2 years, where like you've got control over a lot of things. If a train doesn't show up,
Yeah.
your whole plans are like,
Yeah.
whoosh. Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing you can do. So you can either get so angry that you, like veins are coming out your face, or you can just breathe and learn to live with it. But I'm quite a passionate person, like as a default. So there've been a lot of trains where I'm just fuming and like just absolutely like. There was one time when I was going to go down to London to record strings for one of my songs called Tonsillitis. I was so excited, a whole string quartet on my song, and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And the train was late, and I was just like on the coach, and there were people like, they were fine with it, just like opening champagne. And I was like on the phone to somebody, I can't remember who, just like effing and blinding, just really bad tempered. But it's like trying to keep that in check. And I feel like that's one of the big things for me that I've learned in my 20s. And just as an adult, there are certain things that are out of your control. So when I was in Germany, I can't keep on track. I
was going to ask you.
Yeah, sorry. When I was in Germany, getting the flight back, I got to the airport with like 2 hours like before I even needed to be there. And the queue was so long for the security that I like wasn't going to make it through. And I was like, please, my flight's going to leave, like to the German lady. I was like, please, my flight's going to leave. Like, can you just get me through? She was just like 9. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm going to lose my shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was like,
And did you make it?
I snuck through the thing. So I just jumped under all like the barriers, and people were going, oh. And then that was the first airport, and it was a connecting flight. So that flight was delayed. I didn't even need to rush through. And then so all the flights are delayed. I missed my connecting flight. And there was one, so the first flight into Frankfurt, I was running through the airport with my suitcase and my backpack and a duffel jacket on. I was boiling, sweating so much. I ran from terminal to the other terminal and was like hyper state of emotions. I'd just been sprinting for more than I've ever sprinted since year 7 cross country. and then I got to the passport thing, and for some reason there was another passport thing even though I was already in the airport, and I ducked in front, which is wrong in principle, but all the other people there would have made their flight because they were there already. But I just thought, I'll just get in and see, because my flight's leaving, but it's not my fault because the other one was delayed.
Yeah.
And then the person on the thing said, no, you've jumped the queue, so you can't, which is fair enough, I guess. But I lost it. I just lost it. And then that's when you realise that you're such a small part of this world and things aren't going to change for you.
Yeah.
They're not going to hold the flight back for me, even though in my mind, you're the most important thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's a big thing, getting perspective on your own ego and your own scale of how
I think
much
it's
you
hard
matter.
when things are outside of your control, though, isn't it? We've all had those moments where you're trying to get somewhere, you've done everything you possibly can to be there on time, and it's other people on trains being delayed and other things like that that then impact on that, and it's just I couldn't Could have done much more.
Literally, I mean, I can really relate to you, man. I can really relate to you. And it really took me like really working on myself because there's always a bigger context.
Yeah.
And you're actually such a little part of that.
Yeah.
For me, I always say I'm a recovering perfectionist because I used to want to intricately put everything together. And if something went out of it, I've lost it. I'm like, oh, cancel it all. Not doing it.
Yeah.
But in the big scheme of things, like, it's such a small thing.
That's exactly
so it actually took me a lot of work on myself to actually say sometimes it's above me.
Yeah.
And the amount of calmness I felt when I just said it's above me. I can't do anything else.
That is it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I've learned in my 20s, I think.
You seem like such a calm guy, so I'm surprised to hear like you can get to that state of emotion.
I try not to anymore.
Yeah.
Like we were saying before that I used to play football and I used to love it so much. But again, I loved it too much. So I would get really angry like on the pitch and just like embarrass myself and start screaming and stuff like that. Which is like a really childish thing to do. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of took myself out of that and started doing music. But that passion's still there. So sometimes it does spill over, but not as often anymore. But I think because you get perspective and learn stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, no one's perfect, bro. We're all working through something. Is there anything that you would pick out as something you're working on right now that you'd like to improve?
There's a lot of things. I mean, there's where do we start, right? I think like I've started like reading a bit of like philosophy and you just learn that you know, again, like people have been having the same issues of you as you are now, like since ancient Greek times. So really nothing's changed in the human psyche. So I'm kind of learning stuff like that and it gives you a better handle on dealing with things, I guess. But yeah, I think for me, it's like trying to enjoy things when they happen. Because I've been lucky enough to do a lot of cool things through music and through TikTok, which like not everyone gets to do. But like in the past, I've had a habit of just discarding it and going, what's the next thing? Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a balance because you always want to progress and you never want to rest on your laurels. So that's the view that I have. But that's one thing. And then the other thing is like, well, actually try and take stock of it and be grateful that you do get to do these things because, you know, not everyone does. Like I was talking to like my mum and I was kind of saying to her like, you know, some things aren't going right and I'm like, really just annoyed and all I can focus on is the negatives. And I thought that's right to try and get them better and improve them. But then it's like, count your blessings as well because there are people with much harder lives and who aren't as lucky as you. So
contentment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't mind, I'm going to put on my Doctor of Philosophy hat on right now. But
I didn't know you were a Doctor of Philosophy.
I'm not, but I feel like when I put on this hat. But it sounds to me like you're like really in touch with emotions, and I think that's great to hear from a guy especially. And I think that spills through in your music as well. But also from what you've explained, I think one thing that you'd love to do as well is like emotional intelligence that just helps in the wider scheme of things, right?
Yeah. It's like, exactly. I mean, like there's a lot of my music that I put out and that I've written when I was younger, and I was laughing with my sister because we listened to my EP and it's just like me, it's so face value. It's like one of the songs starts with like, I've been really stressed. The other's like, do you know what I mean? They're so like, just say how you feel then, Michael. Do you know what I mean? Like no metaphor, no nothing. It's just like me, just like, I'm upset. I'm happy. I'm this, I'm that. Do you know what I mean? I want this girl to fancy me. Da, 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 da. Do you know what I mean? And now it's like, I kind of I still like doing that because it's like an outlet of emotion, but I'd like to have a bit more thought in my songs for some of them and think a bit wider, because a lot of the artists that I really like the 1975 especially,
you remind me of them. Like, your music reminds me of their music.
Thank you. Yeah, that's 100%. A massive compliment.
Yeah,
I think they're amazing. Yeah. But if you listen to them, like they have songs where it is like really emotional and it's like just a breakup song or whatever. But there's a lot of songs which you actually listen to, it's like, this is really clever, like the culture around it and the like yeah, it's just very smart. The references are great. And I kind of listened to that. It's like, I want to do that. And then I realized to do that, you actually have to be fairly smart. Do you know what I mean? You actually have to learn some stuff.
Yeah.
And like for dropping out of uni for me and like stopping like education, I've only just realized recently that it's on me now to go and find out stuff like that. 100%. And that's quite a big thing.
We have this like a saying is that like in your 20s, like you are your own teacher now.
Yeah.
Like you literally have to go and provide your own education and
completely
learning philosophy 100%. Or reading philosophy is yours at this moment in time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I did English lit at A level, and obviously when you're in school, so it's a bit meh. But looking back, like getting to just study like all those pieces of literature, like I love Streetcar Named Desire, Macbeth, Hamlet's all right. But Philip Larkin, do you know what I mean? Like this, and actually being allowed that time, it's such a privilege.
Yeah.
But I sound like such a nerd saying that. And if I was in like school now and I heard that, I'd just be like, shut up.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean?
I think it's one of those things, and I think anyone will say it, we take school for granted.
Yeah.
Like I look back now and I'm like, I wish I'd actually read the things I was supposed to read and gone to the lectures that I was supposed to go to and done the work that I was supposed to, because actually if you put me back there now, I think it's also like we were chatting earlier about mature students and how when you see them at university, they are just on it. They always, in my experience, they always got the best grades. They just smashed it. And I think that's maybe because they had a different appreciation for learning that like maybe I took for granted when I was at uni or younger. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think like, because in a way as well, it can just feel like you're on a track because you go primary, secondary, and then a lot of people who I know just went uni as well.
Yeah.
So, and you just do it. Not everyone, but there's a culture of just go to uni because that's what you do.
Yeah.
So you feel like you're just there because you're there and that's what life is. And that's like, you don't question it too much. But mature students, when you've chosen to go back in and do that, and like, the debt is like, you're probably more aware of the debt and whatever else, like you will appreciate it more. And I think, it's a massive thing.
So
Massive thing. I mean, great opportunity to get book smart, but like you said, being out in the world, doing so many different things allows you to be more intelligent in so many ways, you know, street smart, emotionally smart, just so many different things.
Yeah, there's a balance, right, of the two.
Well, Michael, we've absolutely loved recording with you today, and especially as it's been your birthday.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Like we said earlier in the podcast, you've only had 1 year experience of being in your 20s, but it's been quite a big year for you.
Yeah, I guess.
Pretty crazy year. If you could go back 365 days and look at 20-year-old Michael in the eye and give him just one piece of advice to see him past this 3 year, what would you say?
Oh, chill out, probably a little bit, relax in some senses. Also, I don't know. Oh, that's really hard, isn't it?
It is a hard question. And I also realised I said
to
to see him past this 3 year, which is not a sentence. I should have said see him through this past year.
No.
Okay,
to see him through this past year, I think like, how do I say it without like sounding corny? Just like, be more positive, first of all. Stop like being so like negative all the time. Because it actually does help. It's not just like airy-fairy positivity for the sake of it. It's like make the best of everything you've got.
Yeah.
I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
Is that
be
okay?
appreciative and grateful. Like,
that's
of
it.
what you've got and where
like,
you're at.
Obviously keep working hard and keep trying to improve as much as you can. But actually,
be content.
Yeah,
that's literally one of the things I'm trying to work on for 2023, just being content with where I am. So that's a great point to end on.
Well, thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure. And I can't believe you got the cake. That has made my day. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for coming into the studio.
A big thank you to you, yes you, for tuning into this episode of the Talk Twenties podcast.
We hope it inspired you in some way and popped a little pep in your step for this week.
Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. It means a lot to us to have your support.
We also love hearing your stories and suggestions. You can reach out to us on all socials by searching @Talk20s.
Lastly, before we go, our website, talk20s.com, is the hub for all things 20 somethings. Go check out my people.
Have a great week and we'll see you next time.